Yes, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens when President Trump delivers his own speech at Davos coming up later tomorrow. Thank you very much, Eunice, for joining us. Well, let's bring in Tori Whiting now, who is a research associate at the Center for International Trade and Economics at the Heritage Foundation. That is a conservative think tank, and she joins us live from Washington, D.C. Tori, thank you for joining us. I want to go back first to something that the city CEO said to CNBC in Davos there. You may have heard in the tape, and he was saying, look, the president is not anti-trade, he's just anti-multilateral trade. Do you think that's a fair assessment, and what is that going to translate to when it comes to actual policy?
Well, I think the administration has made it clear that they see some issues with the trade agreements that we have on the table. That's very clear with the renegotiation of NAFTA that we are currently experiencing. However, I think that the United States is in a very crucial point with our trade agreements where we really need to move forward to get a good renegotiation of NAFTA, and that includes modernizing the agreement to include sectors such as energy and digital trade. You see the remaining TPP countries coming out and saying they could have an agreement as early as the first week in March, and that's a big deal for the United States, seeing that they left that agreement. So it's important for us to move forward with the trade relationships that we do have.
It is an important achievement for TPP, but we've heard from President Trump, I think back to when he was in Vietnam, saying, look, we don't really need TPP in so many words because we're going to do deals one-on-one, country by country, and he believes the U.S. is better off in that relationship. Does he have a point on that one?
Well, I think that any free trade agreements that are going to move to lower barriers between the United States and other countries are going to be overall good for the American people. However, at this time, we have not seen any sort of movement when it comes to negotiating new trade agreements between the United States and any other country. Right now, we have the renegotiation of NAFTA, like I said, and also a potential renegotiation of the U.S.-Korea free trade agreement. But at this time, there aren't any other negotiations in the works.
And when it comes to NAFTA, there is still a fear out there that the U.S. could opt for a complete withdrawal. And we know the administration's intent with trying to renegotiate NAFTA is for the purpose of job protection in the United States. But you've studied the real impact of these organizations. What would the impact be just on jobs in the U.S. if there were to be a total withdrawal from NAFTA?
Well, a withdrawal would have a serious impact on the United States economy. It's no secret that the U.S., Mexico, and Canada have very integrated supply chains as a result of an agreement that's existed for over 20 years. The Trade Partnership Worldwide, an institution here in the United States, did a study to look at the impacts of a withdrawal, and it could result in 1.8 million jobs in the United States being lost within the first year. That's a serious problem for the United States. And it's a serious consideration to take when approaching these renegotiations.
And Tori, what do you make of the recent tariffs that were announced just on washing machines and then solar panels from China? Because there is the fear that this carries the risk of a tit for tat. Our correspondent in Beijing was just discussing the response in China. They're certainly keeping an eye to the developments on this front. Are you worried about a tit for tat and any retaliatory measures coming from this?
Well, I do think that the recent trade remedies announced by the president here in the U.S. is a problem and is not the proper way to handle any sort of issues that the United States may see in the way that China or Korea or any other countries are handling their trade. Implementing tariffs here in the United States is just going to hurt Americans, and it's going to result in them paying more. And in the past, these types of tariffs, we've seen them in 2002 under President George W. Bush, did result in potential retaliatory measures by some of our trading partners, specifically the EU and Japan. Thankfully, the United States decided to remove the tariffs, but that wasn't before the U.S. lost 200,000 jobs because of higher steel prices.
Tori, thank you very much for joining us today, all the way from Washington, D.C. That is Tori Whiting from the Heritage Foundation. And still to come here on Capitol.